That tiny dime in your wallet could be hiding a massive secret. From rare silver dimes minted before 1965 to special era coins, collectors are paying huge money for certain Roosevelt dimes. Before you spend it, you need to know which ones could turn 10 cents into a small fortune. Let's break it down. The 1971 dime coin may look like just another Roosevelt dime that countless Americans have used for small purchases or left forgotten in change jars. But beneath its ordinary appearance lies a story that collectors know to be full of surprises. Struck during a decade when the United States Mint was under pressure to produce billions of coins each year to meet the needs of a growing economy, the 1970 dime holds hidden treasures that can turn a 10-cent piece into a fortune. It is astonishing to think that a coin so small in value, meant only to cover a fraction of a dollar, can in certain cases be valued at an incredible $63,000 to $136,000. These figures have electrified the numismatic world, reminding everyone that rare and unique finds still exist in the most unlikely places. The Roosevelt dime design had already been in circulation for decades by the time the 1970 dime was struck. Introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt following his death in 1945, the coin replaced the Mercury dime and quickly became a fixture in everyday life. The obverse of the coin features John R. Sinek's portrait of Roosevelt, facing left, with the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," as well as the date. On the reverse is the torch flanked by an olive branch on one side and an oak branch on the other, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. These elements have made the Roosevelt dime one of the longest-running designs in U.S. coinage history. But when looking closer at the 1970 dime, certain characteristics make some examples stand out dramatically from the billions that were minted. The composition at the time was the familiar copper-nickel-clad alloy that had been introduced in 1965 when silver was removed from circulating dimes due to rising metal costs. By 1970, every dime produced for circulation was struck from this clad composition. However, transitional errors and minting mistakes are always possible in high-production years. Occasionally, coins can be struck on leftover silver planchets, struck off-center, or even minted with doubling errors. These errors and unusual varieties are what separate a regular 1970 dime worth 10 cents from one that could bring a jaw-dropping price at auction. The excitement around the 1970 dime also centers on proof coins and special varieties. Proof coins, struck primarily at the San Francisco Mint, were designed to be collector's items and were never intended for everyday circulation. These proofs were made with extra care, polished dies, and multiple strikes to bring out sharp detail and mirror-like fields. In 1970, however, the Mint accidentally produced a number of proof dimes without the S mint mark. Known as the 1970 No S proof dime, this variety is among the rarest modern coin errors, and it has become a legend in the numismatic community. The absence of the mint mark on a coin that was meant to carry one makes it instantly recognizable to specialists and creates enormous demand. A 1970 No S proof dime in pristine condition has sold for extraordinary sums, with prices falling in that astounding range of $63,000 to $136,000 depending on grade and auction setting. It's one of those varieties that can transform a simple collector's set into a treasure chest. The irony is that these coins were slipped into proof sets sold by the Mint to collectors, so somewhere in America, people may still unknowingly own one without realizing its true worth. Beyond the No S proof, other varieties and errors from the 1970 dime have made their way into auction houses. Double die obverse and reverses, where letters, dates, or design elements appear doubled due to misalignments during the hubbing process, have added to the coin's mystique. Off-center strikes and broad strikes, where the coin metal wasn't properly contained by the collar during striking, have also been highly collectible. Each error tells a story about the complexities of minting billions of coins and how small imperfections can turn into treasures that collectors will fight to own. Condition is another key factor in determining the value of the 1970 dime. A coin pulled straight from circulation might be worn and scratched, reducing its desirability. But one that has been preserved in pristine condition, especially those graded at the highest levels like Proof 69 or Proof 70 for proof coins, becomes a centerpiece for collectors. With such high stakes, even small differences in condition can mean tens of thousands of dollars at auction. A flawless 1970 dime, especially a rare variety, embodies the perfect storm of scarcity, condition, and demand. What makes this coin especially engaging is that the majority of people have handled Roosevelt dimes from the 1970s without ever thinking about their potential rarity. This creates an undercurrent of excitement. What if that jar of coins sitting at home or that set of proof coins inherited from a relative hides one of these rarities? That possibility fuels collectors and keeps interest alive, knowing that a coin worth 10 cents on its face might secretly hold a value of $63,000 to $136,000. Auction stories add drama to the history of the 1970 dime. Collectors recall moments when these coins appeared unexpectedly, discovered in proof sets at estate sales, or in unopened mint packaging from decades earlier. The shock of realizing that a small oversight at the mint half a century ago could now be worth a six-figure sum creates a powerful allure. Bidding wars often follow, as collectors who specialize in modern rarities know just how scarce and significant these pieces are. The 1970 dime also reflects broader themes in U.S. coinage history. The elimination of silver from circulating dimes in 1965 marked a turning point in the nation's monetary system, moving away from precious metal coinage to more practical, cost-effective compositions. For collectors, transitional years like these often become rich hunting grounds for errors and varieties, as leftover planchets sometimes make their way into the presses. While no official silver 1970 dimes were struck for circulation, the era serves as a reminder of the changes and challenges that defined modern coinage. The enduring appeal of the 1970 dime lies in its dual identity. On the surface, it is just another Roosevelt dime, part of the billions minted and still in circulation today. But for those who know where to look, it is also a canvas of possibilities. Doubled dies, off-center strikes, proof rarities, and above all, the elusive no-S proof dime. These variations transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, proving that even the smallest coin can hold an outsized story. Collectors are drawn not only to the monetary potential, but also to the sense of discovery and history that the coin carries. The 1970 dime is a symbol of how accidents at the mint and careful preservation by collectors can create enduring legends. For new collectors, it is a gateway into the thrill of coin hunting. For experienced numismatists, it is a prized rarity to add to a collection. And as long as coins like these continue to surface in auctions and collections, the fascination with the 1970 dime will never fade. It represents a world where a dime is not just a dime but a potential fortune, where a coin worth 10 cents could astonish the world by fetching $63,000 to $136,000. That gap between face value and collector value makes it one of the most engaging coins in modern numismatics, and it ensures that the 1970 dime will remain a story worth telling for generations to come. The 1976 one-dime coin is one of those pieces of American coinage that slips through people's hands without a second thought. Yet within its story lies a remarkable tale of value, history, and the potential to turn the smallest denomination into a collector's treasure. For many, a dime minted in 1976 looks like any other, bearing the portrait of Franklin Delano Roosevelt on the obverse, a design that has been a staple of U.S. currency since 1946. But when you step deeper into the world of numismatics, you find that this particular year carries more significance than most people realize. And for collectors, certain examples of this dime can reach astounding values, with rare conditions and varieties bringing anywhere from $57,000 to $125,000 at auction. That leap from 10 cents to six figures is what makes this coin so fascinating. BY 1976, America was in the middle of celebrating its bicentennial, the 200th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Special commemorative designs were minted for the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coins to honor the nation's birthday. The dime, however, retained its familiar Roosevelt portrait and torch reverse. On the surface, it might seem that the 1976 dime was overlooked during the celebrations, but this very fact makes it intriguing for collectors. It existed as part of that historic year but without the commemorative markings that adorned other coins. Its simplicity against the backdrop of America's bicentennial makes it a piece of subtle history. The Roosevelt dime had already been circulating for 3 decades by 1976. Designed by John R. Sinek, the obverse depicted President Franklin D. Roosevelt, a tribute to his leadership and his association with the March of Dimes, an organization devoted to combating polio. On the reverse, the torch, olive branch, and oak branch represented liberty, peace, and strength. This design endured through countless changes in metal composition, from silver to clad coinage, and through the decades became one of the most stable fixtures in American pockets. The 1976 dime is part of this long continuum, yet it has carved out its own niche in numismatic lore. What makes the 1976 dime stand out to collectors is not just its connection to the bicentennial year, but the rare varieties and condition rarities that elevate it far above face value. Among these, error coins take center stage. Minting is an industrial process, and even with the precision of the U.S. Mint, mistakes happen. Double strikes, off-center strikes, and die errors from 1976 are extremely sought after. A dime that left the presses with even a slight doubling in its lettering or date can transform into a piece worth thousands. And when you move into the category of pristine examples with unique characteristics, that value can rocket into the tens of thousands. One of the most famous varieties tied to the Roosevelt series includes transitional errors, though for the 1976 dime, the fascination often revolves around proof strikes and unusual mint mistakes. Proof coins struck in San Francisco that year were made with greater care, using polished dies and planchets, resulting in a mirror-like finish. While ordinary proof sets from 1976 are widely available, rare instances of error strikes within these sets, whether double dies or other anomalies, are intensely valuable. When one of these coins appears at auction in superb condition, collectors know the bidding will climb, sometimes reaching into the impressive $57,000 to $125,000 range. Condition is another major factor. The vast majority of 1976 dimes circulated heavily. They passed from hand to hand in supermarkets, gas stations, and diners, acquiring scratches, discoloration, and wear. Finding one in pristine mint state condition today is a challenge. High-grade specimens, especially those graded MS-67 or higher, are incredibly scarce. When one of these surfaces, it is no longer just a dime. It becomes a showcase of perfection, a coin that has survived nearly half a century without losing its luster. Collectors place a premium on such pieces, and their rarity in high grades ensures high demand. It is no wonder that top-condition examples can fetch astonishing prices at auction, cementing the value of the 1976 dime as a modern treasure. The cultural and historical setting of 1976 adds more weight to the story of this dime. America was alive with patriotic celebrations, from parades to special television broadcasts. Coins with bicentennial designs were hoarded by citizens as souvenirs, while the humble dime quietly carried forward its unchanged Roosevelt design. It was the overlooked sibling in the bicentennial family, but that very ordinariness is part of what makes it so interesting to collectors now. People expect to see quarters, halves, and dollars with bicentennial designs from that year, but the dime tells a quieter story, a story of continuity in the midst of celebration. For coin hunters and collectors, the appeal of the 1976 dime lies in the thrill of discovery. Every time someone sorts through old jars of change, there's a possibility of uncovering one of these rare condition pieces or error varieties. Stories abound of individuals who stumbled across rare coins in the most unexpected places, tucked away in drawers, passed down from grandparents, or hidden among rolls of change from the bank. The idea that a 10-cent coin could secretly be worth between $57,000 and $125,000 is electrifying and keeps collectors motivated to examine even the most common-looking pieces. Auction houses have played an important role in elevating the reputation of the 1976 dime. When one of these rare examples comes to market, headlines follow, and news spreads quickly within the numismatic community. Collectors know that modern coins with six-figure values are rare in themselves, which adds even more weight to the bidding process. When a dime from 1976 in pristine condition or with a remarkable error crosses the auction block and sells for a jaw-dropping figure, it captures the imagination of collectors worldwide and inspires new interest in the hobby. The Roosevelt dime series as a whole is often overlooked compared to the Lincoln cent or the Washington quarter, but the 1976 dime proves that every series has its gems. It reminds us that even within the modern era, where coins were produced in the hundreds of millions, rare survivors and unique varieties can emerge as standouts. For collectors who specialize in modern coinage, the 1976 dime is a must-watch year, not just for its bicentennial connection but for the extraordinary potential it carries in the end. the 1976 dime teaches an important lesson. Value is not always obvious. A coin that most people spent without hesitation can, under the right circumstances, become one of the most coveted treasures in a collection. It bridges the gap between everyday life and extraordinary history, tying together the story of America's bicentennial celebrations, the enduring legacy of Franklin Roosevelt, and the unrelenting pursuit of rarity that drives collectors. With examples reaching between $57,000 and $125,000, it stands as a shining example of how much wonder and worth can be hidden in plain sight. The 2001 one-dime coin is one of those pieces of everyday change that most people never stop to notice. But in the world of coin collecting, it holds an intriguing and surprising place. At first glance, it looks like any other dime you might find in your pocket, small, silver-colored, and worth 10 cents. But among the massive number of 2001 dimes produced by the U.S. Mint, there are certain examples that have become incredibly valuable. These aren't just minor collectibles. Some have sold at auction for prices ranging from $45,000 to $108,000, depending on their condition and rarity. That kind of number is enough to take an ordinary dime and transform it into a treasure. The design of the 2001 dime is part of a long-running and highly familiar series, the Roosevelt dime. This design was first issued in 1946, following the death of Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, who served 4 terms and guided the nation through the Great Depression and World War II. Roosevelt was also remembered for his efforts in founding the March of Dimes campaign, which fought to end polio in the United States, making it especially fitting that his portrait was chosen for the nation's 10-cent coin. The design has remained unchanged ever since, and by 2001 it was still as recognizable as ever. On the obverse, or front, of the coin, Roosevelt's left-facing profile takes center stage. The inscriptions "Liberty" and "I in God We Trust" surround his portrait, with the date 2001 struck to the lower right. The mint mark, identifying where the coin was produced, also appears nearby. On the reverse of the coin, the central image is a torch symbolizing liberty, flanked by an olive branch on the left for peace and an oak branch on the right for strength and independence. Surrounding this imagery are the inscriptions "United States of America," "E Pluribus Unum," and "One Dime." These simple yet powerful elements have made the Roosevelt dime both a workhorse of American coinage and a subtle piece of artistry. By the year 2001, billions of Roosevelt dimes had been minted over the decades, and the coin had become one of the most common pieces of change in circulation. Yet that year's issue, like so many others, produced its share of unusual coins. Some were struck in near-perfect condition, surviving without scratches, nicks, or blemishes that so often mar everyday currency. Others carried minting errors that made them unique, turning what was intended as a simple 10-cent piece into something collectors are willing to fight over at auction point. One of the most important factors in determining the value of a 2001 dime is its condition, measured on a grading scale that goes from heavily worn circulated coins all the way up to pristine mint state examples graded MS-70. The vast majority of 2001 dimes fall into the lower grades, worn down from years of use in cash transactions. But those that were set aside right after leaving the mint, stored carefully without ever entering circulation, can sometimes achieve near-perfect grades. These are the coins that attract the highest bids from collectors. A 2001 dime graded MS-68 or higher, for example, could bring in tens of thousands of dollars, pushing into that remarkable range of $45,000 to $108,000. Beyond condition, errors and varieties are another pathway to huge value. The minting process, though carefully controlled, is not immune to mistakes. When errors occur, they often produce coins that are one of a kind or exist in extremely limited numbers. Collectors crave these coins not only for their rarity but also for the stories they tell about how coins are made. For 2001 dimes, some notable errors include off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the coin blank was misaligned during striking. Another type of error is a double die, where parts of the design, like the inscriptions or torch on the reverse, appear doubled due to a misalignment in the die preparation process. These double die errors are highly prized, and when they occur on a modern dime like the 2001 issue, they can command extraordinary prices. Then there are coins struck on the wrong planchet. A planchet is the blank piece of metal that eventually becomes a coin. Occasionally, a dime design may accidentally be struck on a planchet intended for a cent, nickel, or even a foreign coin. These transitional or wrong planchet errors are extremely rare and instantly turn a 10-cent coin into something worth tens of thousands of dollars. If such a 2001 dime surfaces, it almost always ends up in auction, where competitive bidding drives the price far beyond its face value. What makes the story of the 2001 dime even more fascinating is how such an ordinary coin became so extraordinary in the eyes of collectors. Roosevelt dimes were never intended to be rare or collectible. They were simply designed to serve as currency for everyday commerce. Yet the small percentage of coins that slipped through with remarkable conditions or errors have created a niche market that rewards those with a keen eye. Collectors often check their pocket change, coin rolls from banks, and even bulk bags of dimes, hoping to stumble across one of these treasures. It's also worth noting the cultural and symbolic power of the Roosevelt dime. Franklin D. Roosevelt remains one of the most significant American presidents, and his legacy of leadership and resilience continues to resonate. The dime, carrying his profile, is not just money but a reminder of his fight against polio and his determination to uplift the nation during its darkest times. Owning a rare or valuable 2001 dime, therefore, is more than just holding a piece of metal. It is holding a piece of American history that connects the present to the past. Auction houses have repeatedly confirmed the value of these coins. When rare error 2001 dimes or exceptionally high-grade examples come up for bidding, collectors from all over compete, sometimes pushing prices beyond what even experts predicted. The results have consistently shown that the $45,000 to $108,000 range is not just theoretical, but a real reflection of what these coins can fetch when they meet the right audience. This reality also raises an exciting possibility for anyone who handles coins today. While most people spend their dimes without a second thought, there's always the chance that one of these rare 2001 issues could still be in circulation, hiding in plain sight. It might be sitting in a cash register, rattling around in a piggy bank, or tucked away in a jar of loose change. That means the opportunity to discover one is open to anyone willing to take a closer look. For beginners just starting in the hobby, the 2001 dime offers a perfect lesson in why coin collecting is so engaging. It shows that rarity is not always about age. After all, this coin is relatively modern. Instead, rarity often comes from condition, from errors, and from the unexpected survival of coins in perfect form. The thrill of discovering such a piece is what drives collectors to keep searching, and it's why stories of these dimes selling for $45,000 to $108,000 continue to capture attention. Even for seasoned collectors, the 2001 dime remains a target. Its place in the Roosevelt series makes it part of one of the most widely collected lines of U.S. coins, and its potential for rare varieties keeps it exciting. Some collectors specialize in Roosevelt dimes, trying to acquire every year and every mint mark in the highest condition possible. For them, owning a rare 2001 dime in gem quality or with a spectacular error is a crowning achievement. Looking ahead, it's likely that the value of these coins will only increase. As time passes, fewer high-quality examples remain available, and the demand from collectors only grows. Coins like the 2001 dime demonstrate how modern issues can still surprise us with rarity and value, ensuring that even everyday coins can become treasures. So the next time you have a dime in your hand, take a moment to look closely at it, especially if it bears the date 2001. Check the strike, the inscriptions, and the overall condition. Who knows? You might just be holding a coin that isn't worth 10 cents at all but could be worth anywhere from $45,000 to $108,000. And that's the kind of discovery that turns ordinary change into an extraordinary story.